Working with video and audio formats can be a little tricky. There are a number of different formats to choose from, and there are multiple parts involved, including audio and video codecs and container formats. A video format is made up of three pieces. You have your container format, which is where you get your file extension from. Then inside the container, you have your video data, which is compressed or encoded using a video codec. Then you also have your audio data, which is encoded using an audio codec. So the video and audio data are stored separately, which is why a container format is needed. For HTML5, we have three video formats: the MP4 H.264 format, Augtheora, and WebM. The MP4 format is made up of the MPEG-4 container format, the H.264 video codec, and the AAC audio codec. The MP4 format is the format supported by Safari, including the iPhone and iPad, which use mobile Safari, and also Internet Explorer 9. Flash supports the MP4 format as well in versions 9 and above, which most users that have Flash will also have at least version 9. It's a great high-quality format, and outside of web browsers, it's a very popular format in handheld devices. So if you have a camera or phone that can capture digital video, there's a good chance it's storing it in the MP4 format. It's a closed format, and there are potential licensing fees around it. If you plan on charging to view the videos you're encoding, you probably owe MPEG-LA some royalties. Otherwise, if you're providing the video for free on the internet, you should be in the clear. If you have any questions around this, you can check out the royalties summary here on the MPEG-LA site. The Augtheora format is made up of the Aug container format, the Theora video codec, and the Vorbis audio codec. The Augtheora format is free and open source and is supported by Firefox, Opera, and Chrome. It was the format used when Opera created the very first implementation of the video tag. The Theora codec is based on the VP3 codec that was open sourced by Onto Technologies. Onto is the same company that was purchased by Google to create the WebM format. Aug is a decent format, but it requires bigger file sizes to achieve the same quality as the other two formats. The WebM format is made up of the WebM container format, the VP8 video codec, and the Vorbis audio codec. Like Aug, the WebM format is also free and open source, and is also supported by Firefox, Opera, and Chrome, but later versions of those browsers because it only became available in 2010. It can be supported by IE9 through an additional installation of WebM, but I wouldn't expect most of your users to go and do that. WebM is of comparable quality to the MP4 format, but it's also completely free, so it has the best chance of becoming the official format of HTML5 video if there ever is one. As I mentioned, WebM was created after Google bought Onto Technologies for their VP8 codec. If you've never heard of Onto, they've actually had a pretty significant impact on web video. Their VP3 codec was used to create Augtheora. Their VP6 codec was the popular codec for Flash FLV files for many years, and their VP8 codec is now the basis of the WebM format. So just a little interesting bit of web video history for you. So anyway, with all these format choices, how do we decide which formats to create and provide for our users? I'm going to run through some potential strategies for you. First of all, if you're doing something interesting with JavaScript and HTML5 and you want as many of your users as possible to see it, you probably want to create all three formats. With WebM, you don't actually gain any extra user support over having an Aug format, but it is a higher quality format, so the user experience will be better. Also want to point out that you can use the same MP4 file for your Flash fallback that you use for Safari, IE, and the iOS devices, as long as it's using the baseline profile for H.264, which I'll talk more about in the movie on encoding MP4s. If three formats is just too much work or even too expensive if you're doing a lot of videos, you have to go with the MP4 and Aug formats. I would love to recommend just skipping to using WebM since it's a better format than Aug, but there's an issue with how HTML5 browsers detect sources. We know that when older browsers don't support HTML5 video, they'll fall back to our fallback content. But when we're talking about browsers that do support HTML5, if you embed HTML5 video and don't provide a source that the browser supports, it won't fall back. So if we provided a WebM source and no Aug source, all those slightly older browser versions that support Aug but not WebM will show a broken video image instead of falling back to Flash. So until none of those browser versions are in use anymore, you'll have to stick with Aug. Finally, if all you care about right now is using HTML5 to support the iPhone and iPad, since they don't support Flash, there is an option to just use the MP4 format. But again, it runs into this issue of HTML5 browsers not falling back when there isn't a source they support. To make this work, you'll need to detect when the user's device is an iOS device, and when it is, deliver HTML5, otherwise deliver Flash. This detection can be done on the server side of your site in PHP or whatever backend language you're using, or you can use JavaScript, which can be a little trickier. So If that's your goal, I recommend looking into a JavaScript library like Video.js to handle that part. So hopefully you now have a better understanding of video formats and how to use them. Next, we'll look at HTML5 audio formats.